We are on the road to WrestleMania, ladies and gentlemen. It's Q&A time, a live Q&A, and Cody Rhodes will be going to SmackDown alone this Friday to confront the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. Of course, is it going to be a good idea? That is going to be the main talking point today on the video. As you can see, my name is Steve. I'm your host with the most today, and I'm joined by a very special guest that will be joining me for this Q&A, discussing all things WWE on the road to WrestleMania. Some call him a top lad, some call him a top mark, but for me, of course, he is one part of Hammer's Chat. It is the one and only Mr. Charlie Walsh in the house. Charlie, how are you doing? Welcome to the show. It is great to have you on board once again. How's everything doing?
Appreciate you having me back, bro. No, I'm enjoying it. Road to WrestleMania, so it's all very exciting at the moment. Big stars coming back and big stars going over to AEW, and there's just loads of stuff kicking off. So yeah, no, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's honestly a pleasure. It's been a long time coming to have you back on the channel. And of course, I suppose the first question I should ask you before we get into the Cody situation with Roman Reigns and SmackDown this upcoming week is, how are you feeling with the road to WrestleMania? Enjoying the build? Enjoying everything? How are you finding it?
Yes, I am. And it's exciting because it feels like the most exciting it's been for a while for me. Like some of the, not just with The Rock and then with Cody and Roman, Seth Rollins sort of getting involved. Drew seems to be re-hitting his heights again of just like being the most exciting and interesting he's been since really he won the championship during the pandemic. You've got Gunther's title reign kicking off. There's so many different little bits going on that make a really exciting whole for me. Whereas sometimes going into Mania season, you're excited about the big matches, but the sort of rest of it can be a bit hit or miss. This feels like everything is sort of coming together now and really starting to snowball.
Yeah, I kind of have the same feeling with you. Obviously, there is the big hype of how everything started, obviously, with the controversial stuff with Cody and Roman. Then it was moving to Rock and Roman. We got the big press conference. And now it's kind of moved itself into where we do have Cody versus Roman, but we've got the big tag team match on night one. And that's kind of, like you said, it has an effect throughout the rest of the card. Like, you have the idea of how now we've got Seth and Drew, obviously, that plays into the storyline with night one into night two. Cody and Roman obviously will do as well. And obviously, some of the other matches coming together now. We know the Intercontinental Championship match with Gunther and Sami Zayn, with the tag team title ladder matches coming together nicely. The women's matches for the championships have been set for a while. Obviously, Bayley going to be going against Io Sky. We know Rhea Ripley against Becky Lynch. So all in all, I think this is looking and shaping up to be a really good WrestleMania. And we'd like to know what the chat feels as well. Thank you everyone that's been joining us so far. But I think the burning question to start off with is the next step on the road to WrestleMania. Of course, tomorrow night on SmackDown, Paul Heyman was actually appearing on Raw this past week. And of course, there was a deal made with Cody Rhodes that if Cody was to go to SmackDown alone, Roman Reigns would do the same. No Bloodline members would be there. No Solo Sikoa, no Jimmy Uso, perhaps no Dwayne The Rock Johnson. So, I mean, the thing is, Cody Rhodes, he's accepted that, be face-to-face. I think it's just what this match needs for WrestleMania at this point. It's felt like a lot of Cody and Rock in recent weeks. But I think the big question is Cody walking into a trap?
I mean, listen, with Roman's title reign, it tends to be that they are seconds away from running in and beating everyone up. So probably, I feel like it's kind of a necessity because the one negative I have had about Rock coming back and sort of Seth being involved in all that picture is we haven't had enough time, in my opinion, to really have that Cody Roman stuff. Whereas that is like the headline of WrestleMania of 40, you know, not just night one, the whole thing. It's going to be that match. I feel like we need that little bit of them just having their own moment to really solidify that properly. So I feel like it's necessary. Will that be the case by the end of the night? No, they will 100%. At least Solo will rock up. They'll, if not The Rock, if not Heyman, if not all of them, right? They will rock up at some point. But I feel like it's kind of a necessity for them to have at least some big stare down to feel like what probably should be the end of Roman's title reign, meaning more than just sort of The Rock existing in the ether.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying there with that. Obviously, it feels like Roman's time must be coming. That story must be, I mean, finish the story has been the tagline for this WrestleMania. And goodness, if it doesn't end here, I'm not sure how many chapters I'm willing to read really at this point. But I'm kind of with you. I feel that this is important for their rivalry because they had a lot of focus, obviously, just them two last year on the build to WrestleMania 39. I guess when you're doing the rematch as the big main event for WrestleMania 40 as well, it's kind of like when we did a lot of the stuff we would do for that build last year. So we've mixed things up. The Rock Rock's been involved, Seth has been involved, but we haven't seen a lot of Cody and Roman themselves. And I think that's where, like you say, this is something that's needed. Holding the championship up, the stare down, something along that line will be great for Cody and Roman this Friday on SmackDown. But I have a burning question that I'm going to ask, because Paul Heyman said that something that people wouldn't see coming. We're gonna swerve things massively. Well, it feels like, is the swerve actually just the fact that none of the bloodline are there, or is it the fact that maybe someone that's not in the bloodline could be appearing on SmackDown? Because there are rumors circulating around that one Tama Tonga is signing with WWE. Of course, son of Haku, of course, who's seen as a not officially a member of the bloodline, but they kind of like, really close with the bloodline. Obviously, Rikishi and Haku were a tag team actually at one point in the Attitude Era, of course, in 2001. So it could be like an honorary kind of member kind of reveal. So would that make sense to you, that Tama Tonga could be someone that could actually appear on SmackDown this week that could help Roman Reigns in that segment?
Potentially, it would be interesting, because I feel like one of the things that always comes with a signing like that is where they fit into the mix. And with WWE right now, you've got so many of these long-term storylines kicking off, and you could just lob him in the mix. You could have him debut against some random person. Here's a match against, I don't know, Chad Gable. The night after Mania, here's Chad Gable, have a banging match. It's a grand old time. People would get behind it. But I feel like if you integrate him into that storyline somehow, even if it is only a temporary, like, I'm here, I'm sort of involved in it, that gives him all of a sudden, if he does decide to split off, which he probably would, given the fact he's not like directly in that group, all of a sudden you've got all of these different ways you can move him around, different opponents he can face, different storylines you can tell, and put him on a level where, like, realistically, if you're WWE, thinking about it from a meta perspective, you've just seen Okada, you've just seen Ospreay, you've just seen Mercedes Monae going over to AEW and being introduced as big deals, getting these big matches. Having someone like Tama come in and all instantly being part of that, not very, very top of the picture, but certainly involved in the top storylines, is a big thing for them mentally as well, because it means they can look at other people when they do come up available and go, look what we can do for you. It's not just Cody, it's not just this person. Look at what we've done for someone like Tama as well. And Tama deserves it because he's really good. So I think you could definitely do that, and it would be something that would sort of make sense. And it would be a big deal and be something that's interesting, because you've got two people who used to be in Bullet Club there together as well with Cody, so there's definitely things you could weave in there, definitely.
I like that, especially with the Bullet Club reference there, because we're seeing more outside references made from WWE more often. So it gets kind of like, oh yes, Bullet Club's mentioned. It's kind of like with the cool thing WWE are mentioning those sort of things for the hardcore market, if you will. And it's like, yeah, I like what you're coming with that. And like you say, to bring someone from the outside in saying, look, this is I can be put in the top storyline in the company, even if you're not the main focal point of it. This is a great way of using you. And I think that could be really interesting if that was an angle they would go down. Of course, if it doesn't go down that way, obviously perhaps maybe there is going to be something on the line for this, but do you think, for example, with Cody Roman, obviously we know that the stakes are going to be made through night one to make this to night two. Obviously, if Roman and Rock win the tag team match, it's bloodline rules, which means anything goes, all the bloodline can get involved. Of course, if Cody and Seth win, then the bloodline's barred from ringside. Is that enough stipulation wise for you when it goes into WrestleMania? Do you need something more like hanging on to this match, or is that enough for you?
I think it's enough, but I think after SmackDown it'll feel like it's enough, because once you have that sort of establishing moment, not really because it's obviously always been established, but that sort of face down moment we were talking about between just the two of them, that they'll definitely edit out and use for the graphics packages and cut before the rest of the bloodline get involved and start being up Cody. Once you have that moment, I think you establish it as a big deal, finish the story, you reiterate that kind of stuff into it. And the way I see it playing out is I do see it being a bloodline rule match in the end anyway, but all of the things that have been built up act as a comeuppance for Roman, and then Cody goes over with a big final crossroads in the end, and I see it working out. Is it enough? I don't feel like right now I would probably say no, but I feel like I would probably change my tune after SmackDown, if you see what I'm saying.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, to me, at the moment, looking how SmackDown is built this week, I think it's exciting. I want to see how it's going to play out. When it comes to WrestleMania, I mean, obviously, it's the biggest story that's been booked in. Have expressed my feelings of how I think it will finish on this channel. Obviously, I think it's time for Cody to finish the story. I think it's time for Roman, obviously, to drop out as well as champion and perhaps do something different. Then perhaps they can even have The Rock turn on Roman at WrestleMania. It seems like a likely thing. The Rock suggesting that steel chair moment's going to hit Cody with it. Instead, he hits Roman with it. Yes, it's kind of a copy of WrestleMania 27, and you want to see Cody do it clean if Roman is to lose, but still, it does naturally build then the Rock and Roman match where all the Cody crybabies, if you want, can move to the side because it's that they've got a new chapter going on. Cody has the championship, the thing that the fans want, and then Cody can go and run with that actually in a future way. Do you see that that's going to be the finish of the story, or do you think that perhaps maybe there might be a different layer to this that maybe Roman somehow retains?
I think he's got to drop it. I think he does. And I think it needs to be like a sort of clean break moment where he drops it and then he is not in the title picture for the foreseeable. Like whether he goes away for a while and then comes back in 6 months, or whether he feuds with The Rock or with Seth or with Drew or whoever it is, like whatever amalgamation of things work out, I think he would need to be separated away from the title and allow Cody to flourish and do his own thing. Because I just feel like his run has been incredible for many, many reasons, and it will be remembered for in 3-5 years time. It will be remembered for those incredible moments. It'll be remembered for the Sami Zayn stuff. It'll be remembered for Cody at WrestleMania last year and Cody at this year WrestleMania. It'll be remembered for those big moments, The Rock coming in, getting involved. But it's those moments in between where it has been on a downswing and it hasn't quite hit on every level for me, where I feel like I just don't see how you can carry that on for even longer and it be sort of acceptable and vibey. I mean, at that point, you're just doing what Brock does when he had the title and then disappears for ages, then comes back and wins and disappears for ages. I don't really see how you could stretch that out any further. I feel like you could keep him in lots of other storylines, but I just don't feel like it has the juice left to carry on going. So it has, for me at least, it has to be the time.
Everything has its time, and I think this could be, like you say, that time now. It feels like he's so close to becoming the only name behind Bruno Sammartino with the length of the title reign. I think it's another 6 months he takes over Hogan, and I think Backlund's reigns as well. I think maybe Backlund's already been done with one of his reigns. I'm not sure if it's the combined total how it registers, but Roman's close to being second, and I think that's the only thing that I can see WWE carrying it over. But then it can't go around to another WrestleMania. That's just when for me I'm like, right, okay, we need to break that record and then do it. But hey, it's going to be interesting how it's all going to play out. For everyone that is watching, dropping you questions of anything WWE, WrestleMania, wrestling related content. We're going to be discussing doing the Q&A for you for the next bit of time, so make sure to get involved nice and early. We'll give a couple of shout outs as well. Perry Kerry in the house saying sup SCW, good to see you as well. And Devlin the Tribal Chief, great channel on YouTube by the way, make sure to subscribe to that channel now. Great to see you in the house. And as well, Kicking with Leo as well, another great YouTuber as well in the house with a first mention of the evening. He says, as crazy as it sounds, it's safe to say, well, what's been going on for the last 2 weeks with Liv Morgan, she may not make the Mania card this year, considering she lost to Becky Lynch and was in the backstage segment on Raw. Interesting there from Leo, because obviously Liv Morgan, she's made a big return at the Rumble. She obviously went through the chamber. And to be fair, like, you know, she has been sort of chasing after Becky. She's wanted the redemption with Rhea Ripley, but that's not quite materialized. Do you think that Liv finds weight on this WrestleMania card, or as Leo is fearing, maybe she could be left off this year?
I feel like there's space for like some sort of big women's match. I'm not sure what it is or what form it takes up, be it sort of like the multi tag team match we've got on the men's side, or be it a sort of Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale type thing. I don't know what it is. I feel like there's space for definitely at least that, plus some other storylines weaved in. So potentially, but I don't know who takes up that spot. I don't know if it's her. There's like, obviously there's other people in and around that picture who probably should also be on the card. Unfortunately, well, I mean, fortunately from my perspective as a fan, I prefer there being less matches and the pay-per-views and the PLEs being shorter. But from a wrestler's perspective, there's certainly less spaces for those matches to happen. So I suspect there'll be more announced. I just don't know what it will take form of. But she will at least be in those conversations. She'd have to be, right?
You would imagine so. She's a big name to have on the WrestleMania card. You would think, obviously, Liv Morgan's very popular as well with the fan base as well in the WWE universe, and obviously with how the storylines played recently. You know, Becky got the win over Liv, as Leo says here, and obviously Becky and Rhea, that match is set in stone. That's going to happen. But the other person that's been rivaling with Becky on the road to WrestleMania, and they've seen these two women integrate, is Liv Morgan and Nia Jax. Perhaps that could be a direction they could go, because I mean, Liv and Raquel could have gone for the tag titles, but of course Raquel is someone there that's Morgan's not going to be around for a little while again. Of course, she has the skin condition that kept her off WTV for a while. She made the return to go for Elimination Chamber. Unfortunately, things have flared up again, so she's off TV for the current time. And obviously, wish her a speedy recovery and hope she can come back soon. But I'm going to go for Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax to be the match in the meantime, as it looks like Jade Cargill, if, and it's a big if, she'll be having anything in WWE, it's going to be looking to be on the SmackDown brand for the time being.
Yeah, that adds up. Makes sense. I feel like it's a match that makes sense as well from that perspective of having like the underdog fight. You know, Liv Morgan's very popular. She works well like that. Having Nia doing essentially what she did with Rhea in Australia, similar sort of like dominating fashion and then fighting from underneath. It makes sense. I could 100% see that happening.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to see how it's going to play out there, and hopefully we'll get some answers, Leo, in the coming, say, weeks. We've only got a couple to go. It's that fast now on the road to WrestleMania, so it's fun to see, and obviously we hope to get some answers on Raw this upcoming Monday. At Tina's time in the house, ladies and gentlemen, the clocks may have changed in the States. They've not quite yet in the UK, but it doesn't matter what happens when you look at that watch. It always says Tino's time. Good to have you in the house, Tina. Hope you are doing well, my friend. He also says, how are you doing, Charlie, as well, asking how you're doing, my friend.
I'm good, thank you, sir. How are you? Hope you're well.
We're good, and we hope you are well, Tina, as well. Let us know in the chat how you're getting on. Devlin says here, Devlin says, just 3 more WrestleManias and he breaks the record. Hashtag forever change. Hey, look, it's in the tag name Tribal Chief. It wouldn't be a surprise there to see some Roman supporters as well. Like you say, just 3 more and the record is broken forever. Do you think that that's at one point has become the target for WWE? Because it feels obviously Roman has had the championship for a long time. And, when the reign started, we were in the pandemic. It was Payback 2020. You think to yourself, well, Roman wins the championship. This probably will go until WrestleMania. He retains. It carries on. We go to another WrestleMania, retains again. Goes then to go against Cody last year. He's retained again. We're going to the 4th WrestleMania now as, Roman as champion. Where in this does WWE say, actually, maybe this is the plan to try and beat Bruno's record?
I just don't. It's just too long. Like it's just too far away. I feel like it's just a case of when Triple H first took over, it was too good an opportunity to miss, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not often in wrestling in this day and age that you have a reign that's that incredibly long. And so when he took over and the reign is already existing as long as it wasn't entirely surprising to me that he goes, right, let's carry this on, because realistically, I'm never going to get the chance to book another reign like this. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, it could. Gunther could win the title and then he'd go on another insane run like this. But for a top title, it doesn't tend to happen that often. So it made sense for him to sort of keep it going. Then we had that moment where, like, Drew at Clash of the Castle felt like it was potentially the moment, but it wasn't quite there. Sammy felt like it was potentially the moment, but it wasn't quite there. Cody felt like the moment, but it potentially wasn't quite there. And there was always something that you could point at. And I found myself after each one of those going, if not now, when? But then the Sammy thing comes on, if not now, then the Cody thing comes up. And then you go, if not now, when? And you go, well, the Jay thing was coming up. That storyline was starting to conclude. You sort of can have it continuing. It never felt like that was going to end in a title change, but it felt like there was something moving forward. And that was sort of the moment where I think the reign began to finish. It was just a case of going, well, we've got so many other things happening in the world of WWE right now, with TKO becoming a thing, like Gunther reign going on. There's so many different little bits and pieces that made it go, do you know what? It's probably worth keeping until the moment when it can happen. And if you're going to pay it off, it's probably worth doing at Mania. So sure, just keep it until WrestleMania, because then it's the biggest moment possible at the zenith of what feels like WWE popularity right now. But I just can't see any excuse to keep it any further than that. But it's sort of, there was always something kind of there, which made it easier to do than just to go, back in the day, Cena wins or whatever it is. There was always an easier route to take, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Was there a point in this reign for Roman Reigns where you felt to yourself, this is the guy, this is the person I want to do it? Like I said, there was a moment where Jay's storyline was going on. Sami Zayn was the hot ticket this time last year, just before WrestleMania, and we've seen other people like Drew McIntyre, Clash at the Castle. There, Roman's got through so many different people. Which one for you was like, this is the one I think Roman could actually drop it to?
Cody was the big one. I think if they had kept Sami until Mania, then I would have said I would have said Sammy. But I felt like that was the organic reaction that Sammy ended up getting. I felt like the plan for that was always to end up with the tag titles going in that direction. That always felt like that was what their idea was, and they stuck to that idea despite the organic reaction that Sammy was getting. If they had twisted it a little bit and then kept to that shot until Mania, I could have probably been on board with going, actually, I think Sammy might actually do it. Because at Mania it feels like the big moment. And then it obviously didn't end up happening, and they ended up going for the tag titles and everything else. Cody's the one. Cody's the one where I was pretty convinced it was going to happen. Drew, I felt like it was the right time. There was momentum. It was in the UK, all that stuff. But it was I could feel myself willing it into existence more than it being screamed at me. Cody was the one where I was just like, surely now, like the whole thing was just set up. It was perfectly built. It was there. It happened. No. Which is playing in the back of my mind now when we think about it, when we talk about it. Don't get me wrong, but I just can't see them doing it twice. It just feels like after the thing with The Rock happened and him coming back and then him saying it's my title match and what felt like that was what they were going for before again the reaction turned. I don't feel like they can do it the same thing again. I just can't see it.
No, I kind of feel the same because it's like the fans are so much behind Cody, and it feels like it's the most popular decision to will Cody into this match to then get him there a second time and to say, no, he's not going to get it done. Like it almost feels like, oh, you're really throwing it in the faces of the fans, and it's kind of like sometimes it does make fans keep coming wanting more. But I think in this instance, I think it's going to turn people away. I really do. I think that like I said, everything has its time, and Cody seems to be the chosen one, if you will. But hey, speaking of chosen one, and we mentioned his name a couple of minutes ago, Mr. Drew McIntyre. Obviously, he's had a few changes since we've last had the stream together. Obviously, gone into his devilish side once again towards the heel, if you want, but clearly just says what's on his mind. A lot of time he's not actually lying with a lot of things he says, but he says it in a way that's quite dastardly. Are you enjoying this new side of Drew McIntyre?
I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of it. Even just his trolling on Twitter. There was that video he posted where he was, I can't remember, a couple of weeks ago now, where he was driving out of one of the arenas. I can't remember which one it is, and he's playing like the music and everyone's booing him and he's just laughing to himself on a phone camera. Like, I just love it. He's so good at it. And do you know what? I wouldn't have pegged him for being. I mean, look, listen, not to stereotype, but he's British, so he's probably pretty good at being like a bit of a prick, but like I wouldn't have pegged him for being as incredibly entertaining as he's being at the same time. And I think it works perfectly for where he's at now, because we've seen lots of different iterations of Drew, and we've seen lots of different iterations of Drew at the top level, not even just at the sort of like building up, the Chosen One, the Intercontinental run, the 3MB run. Like we've seen lots of that, but even just in this top level since he's come back and won the title and he's done heel, he's done face and all stuff. This it's just yet another string to his bow, and it feels like again another situation where I was probably convinced a couple of months ago that he was out of the door. I thought a couple of months ago, oh, he's probably going to go. It feels like he's done everything there is to do. What else is he going to do at this point? He's not really going to be in the championship picture, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden now I'm like, not only is he staying, this guy's going to be like one of the top people for at least a couple of years. He's just so entertaining with what he's doing right now.
I'm loving his character right now, the heel antics. And like you say, obviously, there was that moment where we're talking about, is Drew going out the door? It feels like, with everything going on, the speculation, he'd been off TV for a while, so after WrestleMania last year, how is it all going to play out? But actually, it turned out that when you look at it, Drew now is... he's in the championship match of WrestleMania all of a sudden since CM Punk was injured. Drew is now part of the reason why Punk is now fully taken out, which makes you believe, well, hang on, surely if Punk's going to come back in like 8 months' time, Drew's contract's done by then. So Drew must be sticking around. He's on the poster for Bash in Berlin as well. So part of me feels like we could be looking. I'm not going to stick me in a completely yet, but we could be looking at a world heavyweight champion in Drew McIntyre come at the end of WrestleMania.
Yeah, I agree. I genuinely agree. I think it makes sense for Seth for that whole storyline, for the way it plays out, and I would love to see it. I feel like it just all seems to be lining up perfectly for him. And whereas I've said like Triple H sort of had, I wouldn't call them excuses, but like reasons to not deviate from the plan he had with Roman and everything else, with a sort of secondary world title, it feels quite easy to deviate. And even if that wasn't the plan, mate, surely you look at what the reactions Drew's getting, what he's doing, and you think about the people he could come into contact with post that, leading eventually up to the Punk thing. it's just so good. It's so many good possibilities for someone who is also as not just the entertainment aspect, who is also so brilliant in ring. Like, it just makes perfect sense.
He really does. Drew is, I think he's quite underrated actually for how he does in the ring. All of his stuff is really, really good. And now, like, if he is World Heavyweight Champion, like you say, we can have so many fun storylines with him if it builds to CM Punk's return. We could have obviously Seth trying to get there. Could it be a situation that when if Punk takes the title off of Drew, that Punk could walk into the champion next year against Seth, and Seth is the one that has to go through the rumbles and the chambers to get to CM Punk? Could be quite interesting. Are you missing CM Punk obviously since his injury? Obviously at the return of the Rumble, and obviously he's expected to be at WrestleMania in some capacity, and he will be at Raw this upcoming week in the All-State Arena in Chicago.
Yeah, I think I am, but it's just that bit of anticlimax, and we saw this with AEW a little bit, where he's at the age where he's just a little bit broken, and these things are going to happen. It's, in footballing terms, he's like Ledley King. I apologize for the references, people. This is where we're at. But, an unbelievable footballer, but you have to sort of treat him in a very specific way because he was slightly broken and he couldn't play every single match. And I think Punk is a similar thing, where it's like, we had that incredible moment where he came back. It felt like it was building up to something. The injury happens, and I goes away again, and you're like, okay, right, we can wait, because we know when he comes back he'll be great. It's just a shame that in this moment where everything was building up to the biggest WrestleMania of all time, WrestleMania XL, etc., that would have been an incredible piece of the puzzle to have. Thankfully, Drew, everything else has worked out perfectly, and it seems to be still building and trucking along. But it is a shame that we just don't get what could have been, which what probably would have been an incredible moment. But hey, listen, next WrestleMania we'll probably get the same thing, and he'll come out and do his thing in Chicago. He'll get an incredible reaction, and it'll be fun to watch and see what he sets up, and be interesting to see what he says.
I'm really intrigued to see what his role is going to be for WrestleMania. Obviously, could he be a host, for example? Could be something they've not announced for this year at all. Obviously, Triple H having the full reigns for WrestleMania for the first time. He's a host, a thing of the past. We'll have to wait and see. But could simply just be a mouthpiece that's going to be involved in the Seth and Drew feud. Obviously, he has issues with both men, so it's going to be interesting to see how it play. But like you said, there's always next year for Punk, and fingers crossed he does still get that WrestleMania main event before he has to retire. Because, like you said, there is the case of the Ledley Kings just in there. But we're going to go to another question in the meantime. Feel free to throw your questions in, everyone. Thank you for getting involved that have been, because there are a lot of people that are watching, just enjoying watching, which, fair enough. If that's the case, we'll keep talking. That's not a problem. Eric Douglas, though, with us in the house. Hope you're doing well. Eric says, when do you see Jamie Hayter returning? Of course, Jamie Hayter, one of Britain's finest wrestlers, obviously from Southampton. She's been out for a long time, since Double or Nothing last year. Surely it can't be too far away.
Yeah, I don't know when she's due back. I think right now they're in a position where they have, obviously, Monae's just come in. They've got Timeless, Tony Storm kicking in full gear. Her storyline with Mariah May and stuff with Deonna Purrazzo and that. And then you've obviously got on the Mercedes Moné side, you've got them building up to stuff with Willow Nightingale and lots of other things going on to where they don't necessarily need her right now. I feel like you almost it feels too far away to save her for All In, but you'd certainly want her to start. I can see a situation now where she has to be on that card. I don't see a situation where she won't be on that card, and you bring her back to start the build towards it. That'll probably help ticket sales as well and stuff, because she is one of our own sort of thing. So I don't know, because I don't know when she comes back, but they're not necessarily in a situation where they need to rush her, thankfully. And listen, it's one of those things where, again, I promise I will stop using football analogies in a second. It's a bit like when a player's out for so long and they come back in like March or whatever, and people go, oh, it's like we've got a new signing, like they've got so many things going right now in the women's division for once for AEW. They've really started to kick into full gear with that since Mercedes come in and stuff, where they don't necessarily need her. So when they do drop her in, all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh my God, and now they've got Hayter back. Oh, now they've got Britt doing these things and those things. There's lots of pieces that they can all of a sudden start mixing in there, which is going to be very exciting. It'll have to be for All In the build up to All In. I just don't know when exactly.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because All In, obviously, this year there was some names that missed All In last year, and it feels like the opportunity that they will be there this year. And for someone like Jamie Hayter, of course, to perform in front of a home country, of course, in Wembley as well, is just an incredible feeling. But obviously, when does she come back is the big question. It's the money question, I reckon. To be fair, we don't have the answer at the moment, but if we have to speculate, I agree with Charlie, on the road to All In. When it's hard to say. Would it be double or nothing, a full year? I suppose whenever she's fit and ready to go. But I would imagine that she will get a big high-profile return when she does return,
Yeah.
because she's very popular with the fan base. And who knows, if it's not for the AEW Women's World Championship, perhaps it could be into the TBS picture, as Eric has speculated. It looks like we're building, which it seems to be Julia Hart versus Mercedes Moné for AEW Dynasty, or Dynasty, as I prefer to call it. What's your thoughts with Julia Hart and Mercedes? It's an interesting way to bring Mercedes Moné into AEW.
What you were going to say what were my thoughts on the pronunciation for a second, and I was going to say correct. It's the correct way of saying it. It's going to be a great. I think if that is the match that they end up doing, I think it'll be a great match. I feel like I think Mercedes is such an interesting prospect, because we've seen times where people have come from WWE to AEW and they have floundered slightly with the freedom aspect of it, especially on the mic and stuff. And I feel like with Mercedes, there's been moments where not flounder, but there's certainly been moments where it's not like when CM Punk first came in, because the build was very similar to the CM Punk return, right? And he grabs the mic and it's this huge emotional moment. She's had these emotional moments, but it's about how you then twist those into being a little bit more of like, right, we're now in let's get to work kind of mode. And they're laying up the story with Willow, they're laying up different pieces and together with Julia and Sky Blue and that. And it's going to be interesting to see how she adapts to that, because she was bred WWE. She was like from the start, basically. I know she did some stuff before WWE, but it wasn't like it wasn't like a Becky who'd done like loads of stuff previously to WWE. It wasn't like someone like that. She was mostly there, right? I feel like that whatever match she will be brilliant. It's just about figuring out how that character works and how that moves forward. And I'm really hopeful with the hiring. I can't remember her name for the life of me. It's escaping me now. Of the writer who previously worked for WWE, done a bunch of stuff, and they've just hired who's supposedly very close to Mercedes. That it's going to show big things. Whether that ends up being in like the feud for Julia with the title, or whether it be for Tony with that title, or wherever that title ends up being in that stage. I'm really, really optimistic about the entire women's division there at the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, I am as well. I feel like, if anything, I feel like it's a very clever move, because it could be very easy just to say, like, we've seen many times women come into the AEW women's division and they go immediately for the women's champion, and then they lose, and then they fall down the pecking, or they win the title, and it's kind of like it has that sort of TNA 2010s kind of feel, you know. Jennifer, is it Jennifer Peppermint? I'm not sure if the surname is correct, but certainly it's similar on the money there.
I feel like it might be Peppermint. You're certainly in the ballpark. It's annoying to me that it's escaped me at the crucial moment, but it's certainly in the ballpark.
It's certainly close if it's not bang on 100% this, Eric. Thank you for that anyway. But just to say, like, Mercedes, it's very easy. She could have actually gone for the women's championship, but instead Mercedes has gone for that division below, because there is an argument where the TBS title does get TV time. I'm not going to suggest it doesn't, because obviously Julia Hart has done a great run with that championship. Jade Cargill did as well when she had that title and was in All Elite Wrestling. But to have, like, if you're not in the main women's championship picture a lot of the time, nowadays you're on Collision most of the time. You might have the odd appearance on Dynamite, but I feel like we might start getting to where we have like 2 women's matches each week on a Dynamite, which is something we don't get. And we might start getting more women's wrestling take to the forefront of the show, where we actually get sort of not just the variety in the show, but obviously equality, if you want, because of the fact that Mercedes, if, say, for example, she was to win the TBS championship, she can still make Julia Hart look like a star in the process. You would expect Mercedes to go over, but then to showcase against all these other women that are looking for a break to get to that next level, to be mixing it up with Mercedes Moné puts headlines in AEW, puts bums on seats as well, and potentially has the ability to make more stars in the company. And I feel that seems to be Mercedes' MO for me. I feel like she's not just there just to win championships. She is there to grow and make a division. And actually, like she said, she's looking to start an AEW women's revolution across the global world.
Yeah, I think you put either on her and it'd be fine. I feel like the TBS one just sort of, it tends to just get lost a little bit, just because of the way the mechanics of that company work. And, you know, the women's title always gets something going on, but that tends to be it. And, you know, you had Jade with it for a long, long time. And although that was great to see, the reign definitely sort of lost steam and it just wasn't quite working in the way it probably should have. And it's been better of late for certain. And I feel like if she got that, that's just one more step up. And it puts it in a situation where the titles begin to have a little bit more parity, at least in terms of TV time, because you have to have the women's world champion on the shows, and then you have to have Mercedes on the shows. And so if you have that in a situation, all of a sudden you're starting to really cook, and you've got so many, like I say, Britt coming back, you got Jamie coming back, all these people who are already there with Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo, and you've got lots of things you all of a sudden you can start doing with it, that which is kind of why I feel so positive about it. Whether or not that actually ends up working out, we saw hints this week of potentially Willow not turning on Mercedes because they have a sort of contentious relationship anyway. But there was that moment where she's holding the chair and it was played out a little bit, but like you could see something happening. You can see ways in which maybe Mercedes loses or something if that match ends up happening. I don't know. We'll end up seeing how it plays out. But there's a lot of stuff I think there to play with, and for the first time in quite a while, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about it.
Absolutely, yeah, I feel quite optimistic about it as well. And Temple Plays in the House, by the way, says Jennifer Pepperman is the full name there. So yeah, thank you very much for clarifying on that. Indeed, hope you're doing well, Temple, as well. We'll go into one of your questions in a couple of seconds' time. In fact, actually, just before we do, we'll take your comment while it's on point. Would rather see Julia Hart versus Willow at I'm going to say Dynasty. I'm doing it. It's AEW Dynasty, and then Willow versus Monae at Wembley. If I'm honest, and that's a fair comment if that's what you prefer to see. But let's go to Ray, who's dropped in the question for the first time this evening. Ray, hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. It says, Charlie, have you played WWE 2K24? And if so, what do you think of it?
I haven't got around to it yet. I really want to, though. I keep looking. My other big thing is video games, not just football and wrestling. I love video games. And I saw the reviews when they came out, and then had to talk myself out of spending the money to do it. But I am incredibly close to buying it, Ray. I can't lie to you. Unbelievably close. I just haven't got around to it. I really want it, though. Have you? I don't know. I don't know if that's something you ever. I don't know if you ever dive into the gaming world of wrestling games, but I don't know if you've played it at all.
I do, but I was more of a gamer when I was, dare I say this word, younger. I hate to put myself in that category because then it makes you sound like a lot older than what you actually are. But at the same time, it's like that for me, these days, the time is just not there to what it used to be. I do eventually do. I mean, I've got 2K23 and still have a dabble here and there, but you see all the everything there for 2K24, and you're just thinking, I want to sort of play that game as well. The problem is that you do hear of these sort of little bug fixes and stuff that need at the start of these games. I usually like to wait till a couple of months in, because then they're usually all kind of ironed out. The DLC start rolling out a lot more as well, so you kind of feel like you're getting your bang for your buck like immediately when you go to for those sort of like, I suppose, deluxe editions for the games.
Yeah, I just bought a new FIFA. Well, I said the latest FIFA because it was on sale for £13. So now, that's the next couple of months for me sorted. But I feel like it's one of those situations where I'll just wait, and then I will eventually end up splurging. It will happen. I know it will guarantee to happen. It's just about how long can I wait until that moment where I get a bit too overexcited.
There you go. So to answer your question, Ray, not yet, but some point in the near future, you will actually get an answer on this channel of playing that game. Temple then says, hey guys, Sakura Genesis in a few months' time for New Japan Pro Wrestling will be an emotional day for me. Personally, seeing my favorite win the IWGP World Heavyweight title, Yota Tsuji, I hope I'm saying that correctly. PS, New Japan are just fine. You're a bit more of a New Japan follower than I am, Charlie. What were your thoughts here with Yota and how he's been getting on of late?
I mean, Yota's an absolute Yota. I love him. I think he's great. First of all, great hair. Always a strong star for me. Always a strong star for me. I remember seeing him when he was doing stuff over here, and I was really impressed by him. And he seems to have taken several steps up again since going back to Japan. And I'm surprised they pulled the trigger on the cup win, but I'm really happy for it. I'm interested to see where it goes. Obviously, he's up against Naito, and it's going to be a really good match. Actually, I think that card in general is looking really good. I mean, even if you're just a fan of, for example, just the American promotions, you've obviously got the tag team match with Moxley and Shooter, and Jack Perry is also involved in that. So you get some sort of interesting AEW sprinkles in there as well. But I think the card in general is looking pretty good. I like security. I like what they're doing with it. But yeah, listen, if Yota wins, it's going to be absolutely crazy. We'll see. He's got great hair. That's the main. If you take anything away from anything tonight, great hair, excellent hair.
To be fair, I'm sold already with the great hair, and maybe I need to dive into a bit more New Japan. Obviously, some of the big hitters that I'm used to seeing now, I'm seeing more regularly with the likes of Kazuchika Okada and Will Ospreay,
Yeah,
of course, now being on AEW Weekly. So, obviously, New Japan need to build some new stars, and obviously, by the looks of things here, they're building what looks to be a fan favorite from what I'm seeing with Temple and yourself here, and I will look out for that great hair. I can't lie.
it's just the locks, man. Sometimes locks are all you need. Do you know what I mean? Like, come out, like it's like sometimes all you need is a good entrance, a good theme song. He's just got good hair, and it's not like crazy hair. I just look at it and I go, man, that guy, he's got good hair, and that's all I need sometimes.
And to be fair, that's all I need sometimes as well. Unfortunately, it's when you get to my age, it starts getting a little bit less. So keep hold of what I can get, But Seb will ask a question, which could be a slightly painful question, but let's go for it anyway. If Declan Rice was a pro wrestler, do you think his theme would be Vanilla Rice Baby? I mean, it has to be, doesn't it?
Judas. Yeah, no, yes, yeah, probably. I mean, I have to see, you see the adverts with him dancing around to Muller Corner every so often. So probably. I can't think of another one off the top of my head apart from Judas, and I don't even feel that way about him. It's just the way, it's the vibe in it.
Yeah, you got to go with the vibes. I don't feel that way either. But tag team Chris Jericho, that could be something they could look into in AEW. You never know. Roger in the house, how we doing? Roger says, who do you think will beat Jordan Grace for the Knockouts title? That's a really interesting question with the TNA roster right now. Has anyone stand out to you? You following TNA wrestling since the rebirth or relaunch of the company?
I've been trying to. It's forever this thing I keep meaning to watch more often, and then completely missing it because I'm an idiot and busy or whatever. But I've been trying to, and then obviously Scott, the more stuff happened, and I was like, oh, I wonder what the hell's going to happen now. But especially, I mean, they've really caught my interest with the signings they've been having of late from here. You've obviously like Subculture were doing great things there. Danny Luna getting involved. Other people who are around from here. Trent's obviously there. Trent Seven now. What's the guy's name? Why can't I remember him? He's got an insane finisher. Leon Slater getting signed, stuff like that. There's a lot of UK people over there who have done really good, and then UK adjacent people like Killer Kelly and people like that who are doing really good stuff. Yeah, it's something I need to watch more often because there's lots of pieces there that are very exciting to me. It's just like the time. I mean, there's so much wrestling. It's just a pain in. It's just a pain in the backside. But who'd be? I mean, listen. If Danny Luna continues to be heavily involved at all, I would love to. Maybe not now, but I think Danny Luna is so good. I think she's absolutely brilliant. Every time I see her, I go, oh, flipping off. I forgot Danny Luna is really good. So I don't know. I don't know if that's now, certainly, but in the future, give me a Danny Luna title reign. I'd be very happy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that at all. I think that would be quite cool. I mean, she's been impressing me from what I've seen. I've been the same as you. I've been on and off with TNA since its return. Obviously, I've tried my best to keep up with it. It's not the easiest thing to do. Like I said, there's too much wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. There's too much going on in the world, but doing my absolute best. But with Jordan Grace on the Knockouts title, that always does have my attention. Jordan Grace, one of my favorites in TNA right now. Temple suggests Masha Slamovich being potentially the person that could do it. I would not be against that idea either. I would imagine that they are building Ash by Elegance as someone that could be a potential contender as well. So, just to be different, that's the name I'm going to throw out there for now. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, what they're going to do with TNA, because I feel Jordan Grace at the moment has the tools to be a very long-term knockouts champion with the way that things are rolling.
Yeah, just if they can keep her, basically. That's the one thing, is if they can keep her, because she could honestly go and do whatever she wanted in wrestling, to be fair.
I think when she is available next, I would not be shocked if WWE now did definitely come knocking on that door after that Royal Rumble appearance. They seem to be very impressed with her. I want to answer Zane's question in a couple of seconds' time, but there are actually speculation of the Motor City Machine Guns being free agents as close as the end of March. Could you see Motor City Machine Guns in either WWE or AEW? And if so, do you reckon they would be a benefit to either tag team division?
Do you know what's interesting, right? I was thinking about this recently. I can't remember who interviewed him. Might have been Chris Van Vliet. I can't remember. But with the interview with Bobby Roode, and I was seeing clips of it. I never sat down and watched the whole thing. I meant to, and I saw clips of it. And he was talking about when he left TNA, or I think it was called Impact then, to join WWE. And his long-term idea was like, I want to be a producer. I want to be working backstage. Like, this seems like the right move for my career. And I remember when he joined and he went to NXT, it feeling just insanely shocking to me that it was this guy who in my head was like just TNA for life. He was a TNA lifer. It was like the idea of him going there and going to like, not even like AJ who went straight onto the main roster, like going to NXT, it just felt so crazy to me. with them, it's kind of a similar situation where I can't see them being anywhere but like they do other things outside of TNA, obviously, but like a TNA team. But realistically, I guess at this stage in their career, it's kind of what they see for themselves in the future. I think they're in a really interesting position where TNA has got a lot of momentum behind it, rebrand. There's a lot of goodwill towards it at the moment, which there hasn't been for a while. Like they've been slowly building, and it's taken a long time to get here, but they feel like it was there now. And if they wanted to stick around, it would be. Listen, I'm sure they would earn a hell of a lot of money doing it. I'm sure they'd get paid exactly what they want, and could do basically anything they want there. It's whether they want to do that or whether they want to, look towards the future of maybe producing, and maybe that's something you could get in WWE, or maybe just trying something completely different, be that again in WWE or AEW or whatever. It's really, really interesting to me with them because I feel like this is the moment where they decide kind of what their future looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Because for them, if they are, it seems like they can both be free agents if they don't re-sign with TNA Wrestling, and it almost feels like this would be the opportunity for them because they've gone to like a Ring of Honor before. They've done Japan.
Yeah.
I know Shelley and Sabin have done. I believe it was All Outs 1 year. They did with Jay Lethal in the 6-man tag team match. So obviously Alex Shelley has been with Kushida in NXT once, so they obviously have the links and the ties to both companies. So it's how and where they would use it if they wanted to have more eyeballs, more exposure, because they're getting onto, I don't say the latter part of their career, but they've been around for 2 decades. So I mean, like they're not getting any younger. If they want to have this splash on one of the big stages, it feels like now would be the perfect time. And to be fair, I look at the tag team divisions in both companies, and I think although they have a healthy number of tag teams in both WWE and AEW, I think Emotic Machine Guns would slot right in on both, and I think that the Machine Guns would actually do pretty darn well.
Yeah, in my head, I don't know why I just see them as I would see them working in WWE. I'm not sure what it is about it. I could just see them coming in and doing something, going straight to main roster. Probably have to change their name. Probably have to change their name a little bit. But outside of that, I could just see it happening. I feel like it'd be good for them. I would love to see them exposed on that bigger stage because they are so good. And like obviously, like you say, they've done bits and pieces in different places. They've obviously had runs in Japan. They've had singles runs in places as well. But I think as a unit, like going somewhere like that and being on a big stage, it could be a huge thing for them. And I would love to see them do it because they're just one of like over the last 2 decades, like you say, they've been one of the best around. Like just consistently great. So I would love to see it happen for them if they do it.
Easily the best tag team that's never been in one of these type of promotions ever, in my opinion. Just to think of WWE, for example, like matches with like DIY, the Creed brothers, Judgment Day. There's so many great teams that they could go against. It could be a lot of fun with AEW as well. FTRs, we could see them against the Young Bucks again, obviously, which we've seen with Ring of Honor days. So I mean, there's plenty of them to do if they were to go into those races. But we'll move on in the meantime. Zane, we're going to get to your question now. Last, are you looking forward to NXT Europe in the future? I mean, I'm going to say yes, but I'm starting to lose hope or faith of when it's actually going to actually arrive.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know is the truth. I'm sort of I'm tentatively anticipating it. I think if you before NXT UK, I was very very excited for the prospects for NXT UK. I remember leaving the Royal Albert Hall show they did with my mate, and we were talking about it as it sort of was announced and as it was a brand new thing, and he was really reserved on it, and I was really excited. And I think at first it was really exciting, and then it completely tapered out, and obviously the pandemic ended up killing it, like it did a lot of different things. With Europe, it's an interesting prospect to me. I don't know what form it takes or how it ends up looking or even what the roster does. I think about, like, for example, the UK indie scene and how badly that was affected by it the first time around. How badly would it be affected the second time around? I'm looking at someone like, someone like Michael Oku, for example, who sort of benefited from it because all of those top names left. All of a sudden, there was a huge vacuum. He stepped up into it and has proved himself to be just as good as any of those names were when he left. That dude is incredible. I would be concerned and scared if he went off to do that, for example. Whereas before, when Trent, Tyler, Pete, whoever they were at the time, got signed on NXT UK, I was like, oh, this is a huge opportunity. This is incredible for them. Now I'd be like, what does that mean for the scene? What does that mean for them as individuals? I don't know. I'm tentatively excited for it, but it would be a sort of prove me wrong type situation where I'd be like going into it with a sort of fear of it going wrong.
I can understand that fear and that opinion, if you will, when it comes to that. It's an interesting debating topic, really. The thing for me is with NXT Europe is also the time to find to watch it. I think is the other problem. There's so much wrestling going on at the minute, so to have something else as well on top of everything that we already need to be keeping up with feels like it's quite a difficult task. But we'll take that hurdle when it certainly comes around. But Roger says, who's got the best women's division right now? Is it WWE, AEW, TNA? I suppose we could offer any other women's division open to you as well.
Yeah, I feel it's difficult because all of them have so many good people in it, and I think to some extent all of them are underutilized if we're being honest about it. Unless you're talking like specifically women's only companies, be it in Japan or elsewhere, obviously then they're not underutilized. But I feel like specifically with those, I just feel like there's something more to get out of all of them. I would argue probably right now in its current state, probably WWE's. I feel like they're at the biggest stage. They're in the best place. I feel like AEW could get there, and TNA perennially has something going on. It's just at the moment I feel like they're not as utilized as they should be. But again, I'm not watching the product every single week. I'm not keeping up with it in the same way I was. I try to keep up with it, but I'm poor at it. But yeah, so I feel like probably WWE right now.
I think when you have to compare and look and say, like, because a lot of people, when we watch the shows, we sort of go with WWE. Well, there's NXT's women's division, and there's SmackDown, and when there's Raw's women's division. It's one division, really. When you combine it like that under WWE, like the amount of talent in that pool is incredible, and I think at the moment it's hard to surpass that. But of course, I would argue that every women's division, when you look at those three companies there, is very, very strong. I imagine Stardom as well is probably another shout there. It's probably one of the best women's divisions in the world. But the same for me, I don't watch
Although
it.
obviously there's a lot of like drama going on there at the moment as well, with the guy who just left and is starting up his own new thing, and Julia leaving, and all these other things. Just a stressful scenario that I don't know enough to really talk about in a deep sense.
Same here on that one, so we'll leave that for another day. But good question anyway. Eric asking us if we think Liv will miss WrestleMania. We did sort of touch on this one earlier when I suggested that Liv Morgan will have a match with Nia Jax. It seems to be like the two that are left over outside of the Becky feud that's going on right now. Charlie, do you have anything you want to add to this? I know we discussed it earlier on.
I feel like I say, I feel like there will be some sort of big multi-match, whether it's tag or singles, and if it is a multi thing, she will 100% be involved. It's just a case of what it will end up being.
There you go. Temple says, thoughts on TK putting a title on Okada already without having a singles match in AEW. Me personally hate it. I have my reasons. I mean, I haven't seen Dynamite this week, but I'm aware Okada won. I think it was a given Okada was going to win that match because not all the titles were on the line. It was just the Continental Championship. I will just quickly give my opinion, although I haven't seen it, so you have to bear with me for not seeing it. But I do feel that for me, with the idea that Okada was coming as this corporate suck up with the Young Bucks, obviously with their new shtick going on, I really enjoyed this trio together. And I like the idea that perhaps maybe it could lead into them trying to take over and everything is going to be wrong with everything in AEW. Okada's like the one person they're willing to push to that top. It will be the lead of what Kenny Omega comes back into feud with, hopefully Omega Okada for All In everybody. But you know, I'm not against the idea of Okada winning this title just because of the fact that we know he's renowned as one of the world's best wrestlers. And if he's going to be the Young Bucks choice as this corporate suck up heel that's a sellout for all the money, you know, surely, you know, you're bringing him in, he's got to win this match. Maybe is it too soon to do this match is probably the question you're really asking there. Potentially I would have waited to the Dynasty pay-per-view, but at the same time, the fact that they've done the match now, I think they still leave it open to doing a rematch perhaps at that pay-per-view. But so what's your thoughts on the situation with Kazuchika Okada already being a champion in All Elite Wrestling?
I agree with everything you've just said. Like, I love the storyline they've got going on. It was another one of those things where they've obviously had this influx of people recently, and I was scared that this is like outside of mainstream American wrestling, he's the guy. He is the best. He's just unbelievable. And what do you do with a guy like that who is not necessarily super? He can speak English fine, but like he's not going to grab a mic and cut a blistering English promo with it or anything. So what do you do with him? Actually attaching him to the Young Bucks, who, if you're like a hardcore guy, like, you know, they've been friends since all the way back in TNA. They have their friend. They knew each other in Japan, and there's always been, unfairly or unfairly, this perception that the Young Bucks, you know, they seconded Omega to all of the matches against Okada and things like that, almost as if, you know, they attached themselves to the big guy, and that they sort of got off the back of it, sort of going thing, you know, Cody comes along, oh, they attach themselves. There's been this undercurrent. I don't think it's ever been like the mainstream opinion, but I've certainly heard it said a couple of times. And so the idea of they've turned heel and then instantly gone, here's our guy, look at this young buck we've brought in, he's all exciting. And I think, like, having them as the spokesperson for him is, like, perfect. Them just latching onto this guy, like you say, the future stuff that's going to happen with Omega is going to be brilliant. But from a storyline perspective, is perfect. I'm happy, I'm completely fine with him winning the title. You could have kept it till Dynasty, but I'm completely happy with him winning the title. I think my only problem with it as a concept is it's just another title at this point. Like, with Eddie, with, like, the titles sort of being looking like they're gonna be split up. Like, I always felt a bit weird when he had all three of the titles at once, and what that meant. And, like, you know, the C2, as it was, the Continental Classic was so good. It's just about what that meant for the end of it. You know, when you have a G1, you win a trophy, you get the title match done. Like, it's not like someone else wins the trophy and all these other things. It's very simply done. And I feel like having you have more belts that are more defended and just splitting them up just felt unnecessary to me. And in this scenario where you've already got the international title, you've already got the TNT title, you've got so many different things going on at once. It's just, and the FTW title, if you really want to include it. Do you know what I mean? That was this week as well. So it just feels too much. I like Okada winning it. Okada's great. I'm super down for the storyline. A friend of mine texted me and sent me a picture of Okada. This was before he won it. One of the pictures of him backstage or something, and just said he looks wrong without a title. And it's very true. It just sort of suits him. It's almost a bit like Tanahashi's old gear, like has to get space for the title, just because he always had it. It's a bit like that with Okada. So listen, I'm fine with it. I'm excited to see what goes beyond. The storyline is brilliant. I just have a problem with there being yet more belts that I don't think are entirely necessary. But my God, the stuff that you can do with it. I mean, at the end of the match, not to spoil it for you, block your ears if you don't want spoilers. Pac comes out, and Pac versus Okada. That's give me that twice on Sunday, you know, every other day of the week as well, ideally. So yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting stuff to do with it. It's just we don't need more of them. We just don't need more of them.
We don't need more titles. However, this is going to be my last sound list, because we'll catch up with the other questions coming. But I can see this being a situation, because the Young Bucks seem to have this issue with everyone not being, you know, the right way in the locker room. You know, the people that are not corporate enough, that get rid of the legends that are taking over this company. It's supposed to be about the young blood. Now it's going to be trying about winning those tag team titles. Obviously, they're in that tournament. I imagine they will do so. Okada has won that. He's the perfect representative to be the Continental Classic person, not Eddie Kingston, who's, you know, someone that's been like a barman and, you know, all the rest of it, not even dressed in proper wrestling gear or whatever. However they want to portray that. And I imagine they'll do that. They will try and build championships, taking off and taking away and trying to take over collectively AEW and all their titles. I can see the trios titles being the next ones, especially if they claim to beat Bullet Club Gold, because of the fact you see Max Caster on the microphone, for example, controversial. We don't need that in our company. That's something that's not going to wash well. You can see the Bucks being sort of doing that as well. And then once they have the trios titles, they're more elites than the elites ever were. And it's just, and again, those little stabs, them little things to get Kenny to come back for when he's fit and when he's ready to go. So, you know, we've gone into quite a bit of detail, to be fair, on this one, Temple, but it feels like we are currently more in support than not. But if you want to share your reasons why you're not, completely understand it, and feel free to throw them in the comments. We're happy to read it out. But Temple does have a couple of other comments for us. He says, Charlie honestly would buy this year's game, WWE 2K24. It's personally, it has the 2K full full team vibe. The only issue is the online game. I don't play online. Fair play to that. I have heard there's been some issues with the online gaming. He did share the series as well when Yota won the cup. Seeing someone like him come up from the young line, to see him develop, to go on an excursion to Rev Pro and CMLL. Absolutely, it is great to see indeed, and good to see emotion.
He's great hair.
He's got great hair. You've got to remember the hair.
His hair's really good, man. We need to just talk about it more often, please. The hair, bro.
I need to see him in like a L'Oreal advert, I think, then, and then I'll be like, there he is. That's the guy. He's got great hair.
Hell yeah. When Joe Hart did the Head and Shoulders advert, yeah, let's go. That's big up, but Yota rocking it. Yeah, let's go.
CD in the house, C Nation Doc. Hope you're doing well. CD says Rich Swann has turned heel and joined forces with AJ Francis. They should be future TNA tag team champions. Of course, CD goes on to say that Rich Swann has failed Willie Mack. He's failed with Sami Callihan. Maybe AJ Francis will be the third time the charm. Obviously, Rich Swann is one championship away from being a Grand Slam champion in TNA. So, C Nation Dog has been really on the hope that Rich Swann will complete the package by winning the tag team titles. Is it something you could see with Rich Swann and AJ Francis as future TNA tag team champions?
It will happen eventually. Whether it's with AJ or not, it will happen eventually. I don't know whether it will be with AJ. It's Rich Swann. What a guy. What an incredible wrestler. To go from where he was, like, and I loved him in WWE, but he was just criminally underused, as was the rest of that division. To see him go to TNA and just be like, no, I'm actually as good as everyone thinks I am, and if not, slightly better. It will happen. It's just a matter of when and who with. What do you think?
I mainly for C Nation Dog, I'm desperate for it to happen. This has been we talk about finish the story at the start of this video with Cody Rhodes. I mean, Rich Swann needs to finish the story in TNA and win those tag team titles for CD more than anybody else. So I'm really hoping it happens, but I'm going to stick my neck out, C Nation. I say this is the tag team partner to do it. This is the guy, because AJ Francis, they are building him like he's a big deal in TNA from what I've seen. And obviously Rich has turned heel, gone alongside him. So why not? I think they could have some unique and interesting chemistry as a tag team together. Absolutely. Let's see it. Let's see how it would play out. And especially if a team like the Motor City Machine Guns are going, they can need a big team to fill that void. Maybe that could just be the pair. Ray says Danny Luna is a tag team champion with Jody Fret. Absolutely. They won those championships at Sacrifice, if I'm not mistaken, Ray. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Temple says Sami Callihan now works for MLW and has a faction with my all-time favorite, Raven. I was not aware of that, but I knew it was in MLW, but to be with Raven as well. Was you a fan of Raven back in the day?
Oh, yeah. I'm seeing in my head, WrestleMania 17 or whatever, pushed in the trolley out with the stop sign and everything else, the jacket. He was just cool, wasn't he?
He was. Quote the Raven nevermore. I was enjoying Raven's work.
Great hair
as well. Absolutely. Even back in the days before, as Johnny Polo, he had some great hair going on. And Scotty
yes.
Sinesha believes that Nathan Frazier will turn on Axiom soon. I quite like them as a duo. I don't want them to break up, but I can see what CD's saying, because Frazier does have those hard-hitting truths and sometimes does get himself into trouble with his mouth. Could he be someone that could turn on Axiom?
Probably. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a super long-term thing. But listen, when they eventually do, they're going to have some banging matches yet again.
Do they need to have like a best of 57 series? I'm quite happy to watch them on a weekly basis.
100%. Just keep it going. I'm fine with that.
Let's do it. Temple says, don't know if you guys in the chat or if we knew, but apparently Pentagon and Phoenix are bringing back Lucha Underground on June the 1st, 2024. Hit the lights. Was you a big fan of Lucha Underground back in the day?
I was. It was like the best. It was so nice. It was great. It was like an hour of just awesome. It was so good. Just something that was completely different to everything else that was being shown the way it was. And like, don't get me wrong, sometimes the things they were doing were hit or miss, but the fact that there was something just so completely different, I was super down for it all times. And I still regularly, like the highlights still regularly just play in my head. I'm seeing Angelico jumping off the office into the ring and all these other sort of amazing moments that they had and storylines that were telling, and mixing that like telenova style into wrestling. I was super, super down for it. If it ever was to come back, I would be a big, big proponent of that, because I thought it was, when it was on, the best hour of wrestling on television every week.
It truly was at that time period. I absolutely loved Lucha Underground, to the point that like it was becoming like WWE was like the top content at the time, and Lucha Underground was becoming the second. Obviously, there wasn't much else in the competition, wasn't AEW at that point. But yeah, I mean, I was thoroughly enjoying talking about Lucha Underground on a weekly basis. So yeah, if they do hit the lights, which apparently Temple says they will be, I will be tuning in. That is something I will make time for. CD says Alex Shelley did have a short run in 2020 with Kushida as the time splitters in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. You are right, indeed. And Roger here says, why do you think a lot of wrestlers don't re-sign with TNA? This is a good question. Do you think this could be something to do with Scott D'Amore? Could it be the fact that they've built a reputation, they've got an opportunity to go on mainstream TV with a WWE and AEW, or just simply they prefer the indies more? What do you reckon could be the reason for it?
I feel like there's a ceiling with TNA, unfortunately. I feel like you can sort of get to a certain level, but once you're there, it's like, where else can you go with it? Like, you look at like the greats they've always had have gone on to do just as, like, the very best of TNA can go on to be the very best anywhere else, right? You only have to look at both companies right now. Look at flipping Samoa Joe. He's literally the AEW World Champion, right? Was one of the goats in TNA, right? If you're the very best there, you can be the very best pretty much anywhere you want to go. It's just a case of, where are you probably going to earn more money? What's the next stepping stone? And I feel like TNA does a really good job of picking up people at the right time for them to be involved in that company. It's just a case of, what's the next step? Because a lot of these people tend to be quite young when they get there and do really good stuff early doors. And once you're there, you're hot property and you can earn a lot of money somewhere else as well, and probably more than you can ever earn in TNA, which is fine. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think being someone who can, I think being a company who can cultivate young talent and bring them through and put them onto a big level, and then them going on to other things, is never a bad thing. And it will always mean there's at least one exciting thing happening in TNA. And there always is at least one exciting thing happening, if not more, like at the moment where it feels like they've got a lot of momentum and there's lots of good things happening. It's just a shame that it's one of those situations where, AEW exists, WWE exists, New Japan exists, if that's the route you want to take, or go overseas into Japan or whatever. There's just so many different things you can do in wrestling now that people being there for the entirety of their careers just doesn't feel like a viable option anymore.
I think that's a really well worded answer. There's not a lot more I can add to that. That's how well that was said there. It's almost like a proving ground. You make it there, you probably got the opportunity to make it somewhere else. And that's probably the reason there for you, Roger. But it's obviously hard to say for every single individual, but it could be as a collective answer potentially. See, this is, I'm sorry, but I'm not a fan of the main roster superstars in NXT because they're taking up too many opportunities from younger stars. I haven't seen NXT this week either, so I can't comment too much. But I know the Good Brothers are down there right now, obviously. I have them as the favourites to perhaps go for those NXT Tag Team Championships against the Wolf Dogs at Stand and Deliver. What's your thoughts of main roster talent being used in NXT?
Fine with it as long as it's limited. Like, if anything, when it's limited, it can be really exciting. But like you say, I feel like there needs to be some sort of cap on it, just time wise. But in general, like, you see someone drop down. I think back to even like when the Ascension were tag team champions and they had nothing to do, and so they were like, here's Scotty Too Hotty and Too Cool, awesome, just for a single go around, exciting times. When they were doing Takeover Brooklyn and Jushin Thunder Liger came in for Tyler, I think that did huge things with Breeze. I think you can make those moments and have them be huge moments for the younger wrestlers that are learning and growing. It's just about hitting that balance, so it is still about the young stars and not just the big names that are there for perhaps outstaying their welcome for too long.
Yeah, I can see that as well. I mean, for me, I'm not against the idea of top stars or main roster stars coming down to NXT. Like you say, it depends how long they're there for. Yes, it can take TV time away, but the thing is, the experience that they can share to these, fairly green talents. When you look at someone like Tiffany Stratton, she's only been wrestling for 2 years. She seems to have taken like a duck to water, but to have a program with Becky Lynch obviously was kind of that probably testing water. Can she get through this? And if she does, she's probably ready for the main roster. And that's what happened. Royal Rumble comes, and all of a sudden now we see her on a weekly basis on SmackDown. So there is that sort of where it can help those younger stars as well, because it gives them the opportunity to ask questions. Do they want to learn? It's more than just the TV time, I guess, I think, that comes into it. But at the same time, I understand it's not for everybody. And the thing is, when some people like some things more than others, and CD, I understand, not a fan of main roster talent being in NXT, and that's a fair point. And Zane asks, why why do you think WWE don't do intergender matches? Could probably keep this one quite short and simple. It's PG company. Violence towards women, men's beating women, they're not cool. They're not cool with it. You tend to see these sort of matches ever. It's usually Rhea Ripley squashing Akira Tozawa. That's the sort of thing that you're going to see if you're going to see it at all.
Yeah.
CD says the Knockouts division very weak right now about Trinity, Mickey James, Deonna Purrazzo. Half the Knockouts are in the tag team division. At least they're building that tag team division, though. But I see what you mean. It's more building stars at the moment rather than actually having those established stars. And apparently, Kazuchika Okada is the quickest wrestler to win the championship in AEW, which I guess is could potentially be a point. He's only been around for a few weeks. You think of anyone?
Up. I can't think of anyone else. I was trying to think if there's someone in the early days who came in and won something instantly, but I don't think there is. I think that probably makes sense.
I think that makes sense as well. The CD always there with the facts. Temple Play says, I'm not a GCW guy, but Masha Slamovich versus Shayna Baszler for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport is going to be amazing. I'm not going to lie. This is a match I'm quite invested. I'm not a GCW guy either, but I may have to make some time for this.
Yeah, GCW is one of those companies where like I'll watch when I sit, like I'll watch big shows when I get the time, and if there's obviously something insane happening, I'll probably watch it. I will make sure that the second I can, I will be on that match and probably that entire show. But I'll be, because I think Nemeth is going to be on that card as well, which is going to be interested to see him in that sort of environment compared to something he'd usually be on. But man, that match specifically is, that's yes, very much yes.
Sign me up. That's all I can say. Sign me up. And I'm down for that. And Tama says, I have my reasons why I didn't like Okada winning the title last night. Of course, we were discussing this earlier. Since I think TK gave him the title off his name value, and that just doesn't sit well with me. But that's fair enough. If it's name value, that's not working for you. Ray asks, did you see what Dustin Rhodes said about The Rock? I'm going to ask you, Charlie, if you have seen this.
I did not. What did he say? You know?
I did not see this either. Well, I'm aware that he said something about The Rock, but I don't remember what it is because I wasn't really paying attention when it was on these YouTube videos at the time when it happened, and I haven't gone and seeked out myself. So unfortunately, Ray, not the answer you wanted for that particular question. Apologies. CD says, how would you split the undisputed WWE tag team titles? A great question. We've got 6 teams about to appear in the ladder match at WrestleMania. Is there an opportunity?
You could figure something out. I feel like it's probably not the right time to do it at WrestleMania, but you could certainly figure out something to do in that realm where maybe 2 of them climb up a ladder. Maybe they do an unannounced match for the second night or something. 2 of them climb up a ladder and pull it apart or something. I don't know. There's something that could happen. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they need to at some point. I feel like it's just further just separating the brands and giving them their own identities. It made sense when it was Jimmy and Jay, but now it's sort of a bit. I feel like now it's sort of unnecessary to have them together. I don't know how they do it. I'm looking forward to when they do, because there's a lot of good tag teams right now that could be fighting for it on both sides, but it's just a case of how.
Yeah, how is the big question, because I kind of feel the same as you. It's about time that they split up, because I feel SmackDown, the tag team division this year, has kind of been a bit directionless. When you look at teams that are pretty deadly, like I think they're awesome, but they don't really have anything to go after ultimately. So it's just, they have a tag team match and that's it. It doesn't go anywhere. So I can't remember who said it in our chat last week. We did a Q&A last, I think it was last Thursday, with WrestleMania UK in the house, and someone suggested in the chat that R-Truth or someone from the Raw brand grabs the Raw tag team titles at the same time someone from SmackDown grabs the SmackDown tag team title, and that's how you split them up in the ladder match at WrestleMania. Yes, it's kind of a confusing finish of how to do things, but it could be a way to break those tag team titles up. Would you be a fan of that? Or, I'm going to throw an alternative as into this still question, would you prefer that someone just had those tag team titles and we eliminated the Raw and SmackDown factor after WrestleMania? The winners of that ladder match are the WWE Tag Team Champions, and we introduce World Tag Team Champions after the WWE draft.
I would be up for that. I would 100% be up for that. You could do a really, really convoluted finish if you wanted, and have someone from the Raw brand grab one of the Raw ones, and another person from a different team from the other Raw brand grab the other ones, and then you just set up 2 tag team matches for the next night to figure that out. But yeah, no, I would be a big fan of them splitting the titles up somehow, like you say, and then having a WWE and then a World Tag Team Championships. I would be a big fan of that.
I think it's needed. It's time for the name change because obviously once you get that
Yeah.
draft happen, we don't need people playing past the parcel anymore. Those the thing of the past, and we don't want to see it. Ray says the I Quit match, Adam Cole versus Christian Cage, was an amazing match, one of the best I Quit matches in a long time. You managed to catch the highlights. I've had yet the opportunity to see this show. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, from what I haven't watched the entire match in its entirety yet, but I really did really enjoy what I saw. I feel like the I Quit gimmick is becoming Copeland's. That's just a thing. You think of like certain wrestlers. Like Undertaker has Hell in a Cell, Kane has an Inferno match or whatever. You have like these wrestlers that have like their own specific gimmicks that are their thing. The Punjabi prison match. I feel like the I Quit is kind of becoming Copeland's thing. He seems to really know what to do with those. And from what I saw, it was really good. That's one of the matches I need to this evening. I will be going back and watching 1000% of while I'll have the entire show on in the background while I work. When that comes on, I will be stopping and I will be watching intently because from what I saw, I really liked it, and it's a big moment. It's a big moment in the company's history, in my opinion.
I like it. I'm going to need to see it now. I'm going to need to go out of my way to make sure I see it in the very, very near future. Temple says, Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY, give it to me now. Probably in the best Batista accent possible. But we've got Temple says, Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr. at Wembley, both wearing Arsenal or West Ham shirts and doing the brawl like Edge and Christian did last night, but to pop the crowd, lol. Yeah, obviously I'm not sure of the reference of last night, but I'm not against that.
Yeah, they were wearing hockey jerseys and going out. Do you know if Osprey's from Essex? Do we know? Is there any West Ham connection there? I don't know. I've never heard him mention it. I don't know if he's got family. Well, he's obviously got family, but I don't know if they support West Ham. Like I was wondering this. I was speaking about this on the watch along the other day. I can't remember who it was who brought it up in the chat and watch along the other day. But I'm interested to see if there's a connection there, and if so, how I can get in contact with him and getting on a show somehow. I'll try and figure it out. But I would love to see it. I would love to see those two specifically. I feel like I don't know if Zach will be around to do a Wembley match. But my lord, would I love it.
I would love it as well. Maybe we just need to soundbite this and quote tweet Ospreay and to see if he'll give us an answer if there is a football connection, if and where. Probably not our luck. He probably supports Spurs. But
you hate to see it.
You'd hate to see it, wouldn't you? C Nation says that we should get the grizzled young veterans versus subculture in TNA because of their history, and that'd be a fun tag team match to see.
Yeah, are they doing that at Rev Pro on next weekend?
Maybe. I have no idea.
I'm trying to remember who's else because I think they might be doing it at the Revolution Rumble on next Sunday at York Hall. I think maybe I'd have to double check that. I think, but in general. Very yes for that match as well. Very big yes. Very big yes.
I'm down for it. I would actually see it if it's on TNA more likely than at Rev Pro. So put it on for TNA for me, please. Roger says, Charlie, are you a West Ham fan? I think we know the answer to this one.
Well, that's Danny's shirt. That's Danny specifically. But yes. Unfortunately for my sins, I am.
There's two of us. Roger says, are you a fan of Danny Magic and Daniel Garcia? Now they're both baby faces. I'm more into them as baby faces right now, although I did quite enjoy the 2.0 stuff when they first started with AEW, but I'm enjoying the baby faces run at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big 2.0 guy in general. Daddy Magic and Cool Hand Ange, I love them both. Daniel Garcia, I think, is potentially a future world champion. I think he's incredible. And I think just having them both doing their thing as baby faces is definitely the right move to do.
Absolutely, indeed. I'm enjoying what they're doing right now. And Daniel Garcia got some of the best dance moves in the game. They're certainly outdoing a Fandango, if I do say so myself. Tempo says, me personally, I would have had Okada pick up some wins in AEW when he beats Eddie. It just makes sense. Just a story-driven guy. I'm sorry, hating on Okada. I don't hate Okada. No, that's fair. But to be fair, we all have our opinions of how we want to see it play out, Temple, and we respect your opinion. I think that's it's understandable that that's how you feel. Zane says, what was the best company? I like this question a lot. WCW or ECW? Let's get our 90s thinking cap on here. Charlie, you look like you're in a bit of a dilemma with this one already.
I'm in an existential crisis. So, we had so last time we did a show, you came on Hammer's Chat, the West Ham channel I do. Subscribe. You came on that and we spoke a bit after or before, I can't remember, about how I've been watching like 1996 wrestling and going through, and I've been watching all of ECW and WCW and sort of having the revelation about how good WCW was, especially in those moments, and like you'd just be watching it and it'd just be like all of a sudden you're just having, I don't even remember who it would be, but it'd be like Regal and Eddie Guerrero just having a match out of nowhere. You're like, hang on, how is this a thing that's just existing out of nowhere? Is it like, because now obviously they're such legends and you think about them in such reverence, and in that moment just seeing them together or whatever it is, just being like, how is this existing? And if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I probably would have said ECW without a moment's hesitation. Now I don't know. Like in its at its peak, I would probably still say ECW because it was genuinely revolutionary. It did genuinely change stuff. Like, and so much of what you see now, you go back and watch those ECW shows, especially when they're full firing on all cylinders, and you see a lot of what you see now then. But you watch WWE or WCW from the same time, and you are not seeing what you're seeing now. You're seeing something completely different. But man, when WCW was like good, when it was good, it was good.
Yeah, there's like at least, I mean, WCW has its periods of stronger times than others, but I mean, like you say, the strongest period of WCW, which for me reigns through certainly middle of 1996 up until probably the start of 1998. That's what I think is the golden 18-month period. That is some of the best professional wrestling ever presented on the TV screen. That's probably including WWE. However, like you say, ECW is so revolutionary, and without Paul Heyman being the rebellious person that he is with introducing all these things like weapons and stuff like that, we still would be probably stuck in an early 90s environment. Like WCW and WWE changed through what they were seeing with ECW. There was dare you say that, Paul Heyman even said it in the promo. You're copying what I did to get over more. Like you got over through copying me. So I mean, like for me, I have to say ECW just because of the fact it was so outside the box revolutionary, and also just some of the storylines, the fact of the levels and the detail they went to. When you look with Raven and Sandman, with the fact that Sandman's son leaves him to go to the side of Raven, just all this sort of risque, sort of really emotional, deep storyline stuff that they did for me, because ECW had to really focus on, had to focus on their positives. They had like this company where they were, they were small time to everybody else, and they knew that they couldn't compete on the big budget scale. So they had to take everything else and say, this is what we can be better at. And I think they succeeded in that because they made other companies have to change. Yes, that ultimately led to their demise, because once those other companies caught on, they then didn't have anything to stand out the same way anymore. But for me, I would pick ECW. But damn, WCW, like you say, the roster they have throughout the Monday Nitro era in particular as well, where you just get these random great matches. It's I'm just happy to be a wrestling fan in that period. Just happy to have grown up with it. You can't really give it a wrong answer.
Yeah, I feel like that era is special because those two companies existed. I think if either of those two companies didn't exist, then I don't think we would hold that like era of the reference that we do. I feel like without ECW, maybe the boundaries and what wrestling was during that time wouldn't have been the same, because they wouldn't have revolutionized. They wouldn't have been the ones who were pushing it in that direction. And equally, without WCW, WWE probably never would have been pressured to try and do different things, to try and create the Attitude Era and do all these other things that they were doing. I feel like without those two, you don't get what you get now, and I feel like you probably don't. Wrestling right now probably looks incredibly different than it does now, and I feel like that story often doesn't get told because it's told from the side of the winners, and so we often hear about the WWE stuff, which makes sense. That's just the way history works. But I feel like their importance maybe gets underplayed because of that, because without those two, I don't think we're in the state that we're in now.
I totally agree 100% there. And it's quite fun, actually, when you said the winners tell the story. Look at the Rise and Fall DVD of ECW, one of my favorites. 3-hour documentary. WCW, their immediate competition at that point, they give them 1 hour. It's a really short DVD. It's not worth your time. But Zane Charles says TNA is like League Two in footballing terms. WWE is like Premier League, and AEW is like the Sky Bet Championship. Do you agree, Charlie?
I like the analogy. I would put it more like, I don't know if I'd say League Two, but I would put it more like AEW is like the Bundesliga. You know, it's like there's levels to this game, and like the Premier League is up here doing its thing, but like Bundesliga is good and it's doing its own thing here. That's different from what the Premier League does. There's different. The Premier League has the glitz, the glamour. The Bundesliga has like tactical innovations and managers and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? It's not on the same level. It's still very high up. It's doing a different thing. I don't know where you put TNA in this period. What's a league that does? It's the French league. It's League 1. Creates great talent, can't keep hold of any of them, apart from Kylian Mbappe, but he's probably going to go to Real Madrid anyway, so probably proves my point to extent.
I like that actually really, really well. The fact you just off the top of your head, League, that's it, and then perfectly summed up as well with TNA. I like as well the link with the Bundesliga because obviously, like you say, the glitz and glam of the Premier League, WWE have all the shiny toys, but yet sometimes they don't win the big European competitions because some of the best people in the world actually happen to be in the Bundesliga with like a Bayern Munich or nowadays a Bayer Leverkusen. I'm not looking forward to that game. Actually, I am, but I'm not looking forward to that game, if you know what I mean.
I'm not looking forward to the watch along specifically. I'll tell you that much for free.
Sorry for people that are watching that have no idea with football/soccer. We the questions here. We've gone into it. We're here, but we're here. But yeah, no. At the same time, I like those analogies. But still, yeah. If you're going with the English leagues, I can see that maybe League One for TNA just to give them a little bit more. But I can kind of agree with that. Same, but certainly fun. Gives us something to work with. There, it's a little bit outside the box. See, this is remember the Usos defended the Raw Tag Team titles and SmackDown Tag Team titles separately. Maybe Awesome Truth lose the SmackDown Tag Team titles in a match only for those belts, assuming Awesome Truth win those championships at WrestleMania.
Yeah, it feels like they could. To be fair. Like the momentum is kind of there for them. People are randomly super hyped about the Awesome Truth. Listen, they're fun. They're super fun. That thing they did on Raw this week with the camera angle where he followed him out, and then the Awesome Truth were there, and he comes out and he goes random. Like people are into Awesome Truth. I don't entirely understand how. Like I don't. It's just it just is what it is. Nostalgia to a certain extent, which makes you talk about saying younger people now. Jesus Christ, the idea of saying Awesome Truth is nostalgic is. It bends my brain in ways I don't like talking about. But I feel like that could be a thing, kind of in the same way that when they did the original, when they did the brand split in 2016 or whenever it was? I can't remember what year it was. And Heath Slater and Rhino just had this momentum, and it just made perfect sense. I feel like it kind of makes sense for Awesome Truth, to be honest.
It does. I look forward to R-Truth getting a little step ladder out there during WrestleMania just to kick things off and realizing he's got no chance of getting there. But yeah, you need some R-Truth comedy in that match. It wouldn't work otherwise. Temple with a great idea. He says, if I was splitting those tag team titles, I would do similar to Benoit versus Jericho versus Angle. One full for the Raw tag titles, the second for the SmackDown tag team titles. Would be certainly a great way to do it if they were to find 2 or 3, perhaps even 4 tag teams to be involved. That, especially if you had your idea with 4 team members, one person getting hold of one of each of those championship belts.
Yes, I'm here for it. I'm convincing myself that my overly convoluted suggestion is a good idea now. I'm starting to convince myself. Let's go for it. Let's really what I want. Right, here's the idea, Steve. This is where we end up. Right, I want 60,000 people who are ever in that stadium to just be confused. I want there to be an exciting finale, and then just you could hear a pin drop while everyone goes, "What?" That's what I'm aiming for. That's the kind of booking Charlie Walsh brings to the party.
I like that though, because you bring that there, and then you bring Temple here, says, I've got you covered for Raw after Mania, because this is what I'm going to do, and we're going to get these tag team titles split here. In fact, we can have one on SmackDown after Mania as well to really sort this out. Or it's in the same match here, so let's do it on Raw after Mania. And then boom, we have the ingredient there. We've got Charlie's confusion for everybody, and we've got Temple's solution for you there. And I think for me, I'm just sitting back with my popcorn. I'm going to enjoy all of it. I'm quite happy. And I'd say I've seen these ideas play out. I'm going to give credit where it's due.
Here for it. I'm here for it.
Temple says Ospreay is a West Ham fan. This is good news. Zack Sabre Jr. is an Arsenal fan. That's bad news. I only know this because I watched a doc a few years ago when it was both in progress. I'm a geek, I know. I'm not a geek. You're just someone that's got the knowledge, Temple.
I probably watched that documentary then, because that's the sort of nonsense I would watch. I feel like, was that... I know there was a crowdfunding progress documentary that I never saw, and I don't remember if it ever came out, but I remember that happening. And then there was like a teaser version that they made around the time they did the show at Brixton. But I need to go back and look into this. But this is good info. There is a really good independent UK wrestler who's a West Ham fan who follows me on Twitter. And I want to get him on a show. I've just not plucked up the courage to ask him. But I could DM him ask, and I'm pretty certain he'd say yes. And it maybe listen, I'm here for it. Let's start finding fans. Jericho's obviously one, but I feel like Jericho's unattainable. I feel like Ospreay. I don't know. Maybe around the time of All In, they're trying to get UK press. I could probably swing that as this being UK press ish.
There's a healthy number of subscribers on your channel. There was a good view rate as well, so I don't see why not.
I'm gonna have to bring up Geo after this and have some frank conversations about money potentially. But I'm going to try and make this work somehow.
You've heard it here first. That's all I can say. But you may need to sign up to Patreon just to see this one play out. We'll have to wait and see. But Ray says, Ray, look, I like you, Ray. And the reason I like you is why I'm putting this comment on the screen. Otherwise, this would not make it on the show. He says, one of the best matches of the season was Man United beating West Ham 3-0. He says, my family is West Ham fans. And me and my stepdad aren't Man United fans. Well, that's fair. I'm glad you enjoyed it. We hope that you don't enjoy the return match. But still, of course, Ray, we're only playing about. Ray says, who's our favourite West Ham player? So trying to pick someone from the team right now.
Okay, right now it would. I have an irrational love of Ben Johnson. I honestly, I lost my mind. I can't remember whatever game it was, where he came on and he was playing in midfield. Was it against Bristol? I can't remember who it was. And I just started calling him Bele out of nowhere. And then everyone in the live chat at the watch long started calling him like Burlow, and just like all of the big name players. Binadine Biban, that was a good one. And I love Ben John. I think he's great. He's probably my favorite right now. But outside of who like, if I wasn't just going with my insane heart, I mean, Paquetá is just different. He's just different level, man. That guy's too good for us. That guy is he just plainly is. He's gonna leave in the summer, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, fair play, man. You're too good. You're just too good for us.
I think right now it has to be Paquetá for me as well there. I'm pretty sure, I want to say that Ben Johnson, because I remember watching the watch along, so it tells me it might have been Sheffield United. I could be wrong, but I want to say Sheffield United. I remember that a lot of things were going wrong during that game, so probably less said about it, the better, really. We didn't win that one. But yeah, I mean, I think Paquetá probably for me. Bowen, though, as well, for me, is someone that is, I feel like he's almost feels like he's going to be a lifer at this point. I hope no one comes with a big bid and proves me wrong in the summer. But Bowen for me is certainly one. And look, I've been really excited about the idea of having Kudus since we signed him. I didn't know too much about him before we signed him. Seeing the stats, was excited by that. And ever since we've seen him being on the park, I'm a bit confused how we signed him and not somebody else.
Yeah, the fact it was between us and Brighton is frankly completely insane, given how good that player is. Like, he's another one who's too good for us, but I just reckon we might be able to hold on to him for one more year. Whereas Paquetá, I feel like if the betting thing didn't happen, he would have been gone in the summer. I feel like he'll probably go this summer, whereas Kudus, I reckon we can keep for another year. But man, like that goal he scored the other night where he just decided, no, I've got the ball now, and I shall take it past you all and then put it in the net. And you just sit there watching it, you're like, this guy is insane. He's so good.
Yeah, for me, I know that this is probably a bit might be a bit too far, but I got like George Weah vibes, like AC Milan back in the 90s. We just run through the team, like you're saying. It's just it was just a very special goal, just a celebration to match it as well. Obviously, nicking the stewards. Sitting in the stewards' little seat that you'd have, little stool to sit down, but just everything there with the pictures there, it felt like that's gonna be one of those European night moments. We don't get too many of them. We've been very fortunate the last few years, but that's going to be one we're going to look back and go, that was a special night, a special performance, and a special goal. We're going to do our last few comments before we wrap things up, but we will keep things just on football just for the second, because where Paquetá may end up in the summer is with Temple. He's a Manchester City fan. Before anyone comes at me, we're not going to do that. But before the money came in, I got very drunk when we won the treble. I was like Jack Grealish on a bender. To be fair, Temple, that's the moment you need to go live on Instagram, my friend. That's certainly one we will be checking out. But I need to check some. I've seen he's been going live recently on Instagram. I've not been available to watch them when they've happened, but Temple, I'm going to try and come in, chop in one of your ones to see what you're talking about in the very, very near future. Zane here says, do you think Miz is Hall of Fame worthy? I think absolutely. He's a double-time Grand Slam champion.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. The second he retires, he'll be in there. And I can't even see him being one of these ones where like it takes a while and then they get put in there after. I can see it literally being dude retires, dude is in there. I don't even. The thing is, I don't even see Miz retiring anytime soon. But like, it's going to happen. He's just done everything, and he's been there for so long, and he's been. And when he's like, when his stuff peaks, it's like some of the best stuff in the company. Like, I'm thinking back to that Intercontinental title reign where he was like the best thing on the show every single week. Like 100%, easy as you like inclusion.
I would agree as well. Yeah, for me, he was one of my favorites around the 2010 era, and I was really happy when he first won the championship. I know he's had a bit of an up and down spell in his career, but he's always had some consistent moments. He's always been sticking around and been there, and he does what the company asks of him. And I think that the fact he's always found a way to get back to the top as well, obviously being a champion last time 3 years ago, I think he will be a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame the day he goes. And I can see him being in WWE for almost for life, like, you know, whether it's commentary, whatever, I can see him being around. I don't see him leaving at all. I think he will be there all time.
Yeah.
CD says, Awesome Truth will keep the Raw Tag Team Championship since they're on Raw. I would agree with that if that was to go down that way. Zayn is going to AEW All In with his friend Shirley. She's a big AEW fan. Hope you have a fantastic time when you go there. I was there last year, and I've got to say it was a fantastic experience. I'm sure it will be again this year. Charlie, will you look to try and get to All In this year?
I am. Yeah, I've got tickets. I'm going by myself. My mate might be coming, who came with me last year. I don't know. He's currently in America, so whether or not he makes it back in time is another story. But I'm currently going by myself, and I'm going to the Rev Pro show the night before, because I went to the Rev Pro show the night before last year, and that was incredible at the Copper Box in Stratford. So I'll be going to both, and I'm very, very excited. Very, very excited.
Yeah, looking forward to it as well. I would like to try and get there this year. It's not guaranteed currently, but it wasn't guaranteed last year. I only got my tickets 2 weeks before the show last year, and yeah, got to say, heck of an experience. So I would love to try and see if it's possible to do this year. But so keep watch this space. Someone says Brian Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness this will happen at All In. I see it a mile off. Nigel curses Brian every week on Collision. He does, doesn't he? He can't help himself, McGuinness. You feel like he would love one more go in the ring, wouldn't he?
He would, and that's the match. If it's going to happen, that's going to be the one. Whether it's All In or wherever it ends up being, Dynasty, wherever it ends up being, it would be somewhere. But like Nigel McGuinness, I've always loved him on commentary, to be fair. Even like back in Ring of Honor, I loved him, whatever else. But like, he's just so good. Like, when Bryan Daniels was around, that dude takes it up 18 notches, and I'm very here for it. He's so good at it.
Yeah, I absolutely love Nigel McGuinness and everything he's doing. If this does happen All In, I think is that perfect place to do it. And I think that it would be a great potentially one-off match for Nigel, and would be here to see it. Thank you, CD, for the kind words, and thank you to everyone that has been watching. Thank you for all of your questions, and you've kept us very busy here over the last hour and a half or so. So do appreciate everyone getting involved. If you have enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit that like button, share with a friend, and subscribe if you're new here. Of course, if you're watching on delay, thank you for taking the time to check us out and to watch us talk all things pro wrestling over the last 90 minutes or so. And of course, I should say a massive thank you to the one, the only Mr. Charlie Walsh in the house. Charlie, thank you for joining us. It's been great to have you on the show once again.
Thank you for having me. Any excuse, like I said, one of my closest friends, who's the person I usually speak to about wrestling all the time, he's in America right now, so time zone's all out of whack. I don't get any opportunity as much as I need it. So you know this, when I'm doing the watch alongs, if anyone mentions wrestling, that's it. I'm good for at least 10 minutes. So I massively appreciate it. Thank you.
It's great to have you on board, man. And I'd like to say, go and support Charlie. Of course, he's got 3 channels to support. Hammer's Chat, of course, is the West Ham channel. You can see him on a regular basis there. And of course, he has his own channels, a Top Mark and a Top Lad. I will leave all in the description of this video as soon as we go off air. So if you think yourself, well, hang on, I need to go and check out more of Charlie, you know what to do. Just check in about 10 minutes or so. But that's all from us. Thank you all for watching. Look after yourselves and each other. And yeah, we'll see you for the next video. And of course, if you want to watch more wrestling content in the meantime, the Watch Along series has started for WrestleMania. Yes, the 40 years of WrestleMania Watch Along series. We started, myself and NXT, watching Bret Hart versus Owen Hart from WrestleMania 10 last night. So go and check out that video right now. And of course, we actually have a timer available for you now on the screen as well, so you can follow us on Peacock of the WWE Network. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you very, very soon. Take care.